I grew up in Port Elizabeth in Kwazakhele township, and I had an amazing first few years of life. And things changed for me when I became politically involved at a very young age, and then started to get involved in activism. And at 18, I'd been expelled from school. I was in and out of jail. I was trying to leave the country. We were a group of angry young people. We were called the marginalised youth. We were called the lost generation. And we were very angry and wanted to bring the apartheid system down. We wanted to make the country ungovernable. And it was very difficult for anybody to persuade us. And my father intervened in the most amazing way. Didn't directly confront us. He just set a different challenge. And that was to say, if you believed in these things so much, you could fight them differently by how you change yourself, how you get educated, how you get more socialized in how to relate to people, and how you can lead differently. And that was the change, because it made it less about me, but more about the very cause that I was saying I wanted to fight for. And that made the biggest change in my life. My father really believed in education, self-development, and also gaining knowledge at all times. And he instilled in us this sense of inquiry, trying to understand the world, trying to understand other people, and then be able to learn and understand things and do things differently. So what he then did was that he persuaded me and many of my friends to see the world we wanted to change and be that change ourselves. He started challenging us about our own behaviors. If we wanted a society that was non-sexist, how did we behave? If we wanted a world that was much more equitable, how did we behave towards that? And what will we make of ourselves? And so, what were your grades at school? How did you perform in sports? And then when you start to work, are you professional? Are you good at what you do? Can you compete with the best in the world? And that was his way. So he was saying, if you're brave enough to throw stones, be brave enough to get the best grades. If you're brave enough to take on the might of the big South African police service or the defense force, be brave enough to go on and take on the best brains at university. Though you came from a disadvantaged school, you gotta go and compete with others. And if you go into a corporate environment, you gotta compete and be the best that you can be. And if you want to create that society, when you have a role which is now big in society, what will you now do with that role? Which are the same things that you said you wanted to fight for. Can you fight for those things by what you do? And in his own way, he was a leader. He was a leader in his community, he was a leader in our church, he was a leader in the broader community and in the broader family. And what I only realized later on was that I had the privilege of learning at the feet of a leader. Selflessness, integrity, to serve rather than being served, to listen, to be able to take people from different persuasions towards a bigger goal than oneself, and never make issues about you. They're going to be about what the cause is, what it is that you're fighting for. And he was also present in our own lives as young people, not only us as children, the broader family and the broader community. So all of these things were things that he had instilled quite early on, but he kind of carried them through life. And so you could double check things that you were doing versus what your father's teachings were. And my mom was different, but she also had a profound influence. And so it tells you that leadership is not a title held, it's an influence felt. And that's something I've kind of grown up to understand. And the more I've grown up, it's become even more profound. And you then test yourself against those things because that's the standard that's been set for you. From my father's persuasion, we got back to studying and I passed my matric and I passed very well. And then I went to Rhodes University. And I thought, yes, I've now at least I can do my student activism and I can get my father off my back because I'm now at Rhodes. But my father had already set another goal. He said, I want you one day to be at Harvard. I didn't have an idea what Harvard was. But that's the level that he had set, that one day I want you to be at Harvard. Many years on, after my father had passed away, Peter Slebush, my boss, organized one of my dreams, which was to get to Harvard. And there I was at Harvard, what my father had thought about and dreamed about many years back. And that's the story that shows that when you have people around you who believe in you, who support you, you can achieve so much. And that's what all of us should be doing. How do we influence the people that are next to us to achieve and fulfill dreams that they may not even think they know about or that they might not even have, to make them see that they can be better than anything that they can ever be? Finding myself at Harvard was a dream come true. Here in our AMP class, we some of the best brains in the world. People were CEOs and top people who run their own businesses and so on. But the thing that struck me was, of all the lectures and the people we met, the thing that made the biggest impression on me was a lecture given by Professor Clay Christensen. And it was about how will you measure your life? And that had a profound impact on me. And from there on, I could now see what the things I need to do from then up until the end of my life, which was I wanted to be involved in developing the next leaders in my bank, in my country, on our continent. Secondly, I wanted to spend a lot of time on this wonderful continent of ours and make a difference. And the third one is I wanted to give so much of my time, so much of what resources I have to plow back to my community and make sure that there are other people who may be as angry as I was, who may have been as brave as I was, but to redirect their anger and their energy towards a much more positive outcome. And that's the goal that I've set for myself. If I look at the value of that lecture, it challenges me to say, how will I measure my life in relation to my family? My wife, Zwa, my kids. What value do I bring to them as a father? And how can I make them to really realize their potential? In my own organization, what role do I play as a leader? What do I role model? What values do I show? On the continent, how do I make sure that this continent can really, really produce some of the best people in business and in society? And then the things that I've been working on, I run now 2 tournaments, rugby tournament and a cricket tournament. I'm also investing in education in all the schools where I've studied, in the universities where I've studied. And I also spend a lot of time mentoring and guiding young people. And I also write a lot. So I've got a blog where I write about leadership. So all of these things go back to how will I measure my life? It's not the bling, it's not the cars, it's not the houses. It is what value can I add to the next person and how can I influence the next person? So when I look back, these 2 amazing events, firstly my father's intervention to redirect my life to a higher purpose, to say you can be brave and fight, but fight for something bigger than you. And that success is what success should be, not personal success as it were. And secondly, when I've done all of that and I thought I'd reached the height of what my father had wanted, Professor Clay Christensen then challenged me to say, yes, but you have to do more. What do you do with your family? What do you do with your community? What do you do in your environment to make a difference? Because many people succeed, but then they fail as family people. Many people succeed and make a lot of money, but they lose their way because they're not entrenched in the right values. Many people also succeed, but their communities and societies don't succeed. And he was challenging me and many others to have a much more balanced scorecard, where it's your personal success, your family success, your community success, and the broader society success. And that's the journey I'm on. It's hard because at all times you've got these things that are guiding you. Your true north is there. And it's not a linear path. There are times where you may lose your way, but you have to have people around you. My wife, Sva in particular, who always keeps me, and my broader family people who always are able to challenge my teams, always challenging me to say, stay true to that path that's been set for you.